To the book of Matthew, chapter 13, 1-3. Matthew 13. Today I want to talk about where are you sowing? And as I talk about where are you sowing, this chapter is interesting. It also talks about listening and understanding. So there's two aspects to this. First, I want to talk about where are you actually sowing? And also, what are you listening and what are you understanding? It's interesting, when Jesus teaches and, especially in parables. So Matthew chapter 13, I'm reading from verses 1 onwards. Matthew 13, 1. It says, later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. A large crowd soon gathered around him, so he got into a boat. Then he sat there and taught as the people stood on the shore. He told them many stories in the form of parables, such as this one. So it's interesting. Jesus is a storyteller. He's really not a preacher. He's really not a big philosopher. He's not a big theologian, or he's a storyteller. If you look at the Bible, Jesus mostly said stories. I kept wondering about parables are basically like stories. It's just, one day a man went there, one day a son. It's just stories. And so he said many parables, and this is one of it. He says, listen, a farmer went out to plant some seeds. Now, who's a farmer? I know it's a dumb question, but who's a farmer? I'm specifically asking about the role of a farmer. Who's a farmer? What does he know about? He knows about crops, he knows about rain, he knows about sowing, he knows about soil, right? He knows about locations, correct? Right? Now listen to this, okay? A farmer went out to plant some seeds, okay? Now who we're talking about? We're not talking about a commoner. We're not talking about some guy living somewhere in the city and went to sow seeds. We're talking about a farmer. A farmer knows farming, right? So, as he scattered them across his field, now note, as he scattered them, it says, some seeds fell on a footpath and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rock. The seeds sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow. But the plants soon the plants soon wilted under the hot sun. And since they didn't have deep roots, they died. Other seeds fell among thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. Still other seeds fell on fertile soil, and they produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as had been planted. In verse 9 says, anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Now, who are we talking about here? We're talking about a farmer, right? Now note that this farmer who knows everything, he's a professional guy. We're talking about an engineer building a house, something like that. The farmer is sowing seeds, right? And it says he planted seeds. Some went on the path, some went in the rocks, some went in this direction. And there's a farmer scatter seeds that go on different places when he knows it's supposed to go only in one place. I'm just asking a question. We're not talking about some guy who's a tailor or a musician going to sow seeds. Maybe he doesn't know how to sow. It says a farmer. The farmer who knows things. The guy who knows things, it went in this direction and that direction. It went in 3 different directions and only one went on fertile soil. It says those who have ears to hear should listen and understand. Now when I was looking at the farmer and he himself not being able to get everything in the fertile soil, who knows everything, think about your life and my life. Many times we know a lot of things, right? We're teachers, we're engineers, we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're musicians. We're professional in our own world. In our businesses, but even though we are good in our own world, in our own work, in our own profession, listen, we can be like the farmer who knows everything about the soil, and still it went in 4 different directions. And this morning when I'm asking you, where are you sowing? I'm asking you, you know who you are, you know your job, but the farmer also knew his job, but it went in 4 different directions. And so what is God actually trying to help us understand? He's basically, here's what I'm getting out of this. It doesn't matter who we are and what we are good at. Listen to me carefully. It doesn't matter who we are and what we are good at. You know, yesterday it was interesting. I was in my traffic. I learned a lot of spiritual lessons even out on the road. I was at Uttam Sagar and like 6 of us were, normally just 2 of us. Yesterday there was 6 of us. 6 of our traffic guys were there, and we were trying to take care of traffic and educate them. And at one point of time, I've been complaining to my boss about the road there. It's a horrible road before the signal. Lots of loose gravel and people can fall, and a lot of accidents. And it just so happened yesterday when we were taking care of traffic, a guy fell on that. One guy dashed against another guy. A guy fell because there's loose gravel there. And an elderly man was walking by because of the signal. I stopped everybody. The guy was walking on the pedestrian. He came to me and said, bad management, bad management. You know how irritating it is for you who's standing there for 1 or 2 hours trying to figure out traffic, and someone come and comment, bad management. You know how you'll feel? You'll feel like giving him one in the jaw and lifting him, throwing him on the other side of the road. I'm like, sir, what do you mean bad management? We're doing what we're doing here. Those guys fell down there. He says, I know. I'm a colonel in the army also. I'm like, okay. He says, you're efficient, but bad management. I said, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the compliments. And he went by and I'm like, he says, you're efficient, but bad management. And I was thinking about that the whole night. I was thinking about what does it mean to say, I know you're efficient, but it was bad management. You see, the farmer was efficient, but his management was bad. You see, we are all efficient. As teachers, as pastors, as leaders, as engineers, we're all efficient. There's no problem with our efficiency. There's no problem with our education. There's no problem with our experiences. But where's our management? And I was feeling so bad. He didn't say anything bad. He said, I know you're efficient, but it's bad management. I'm like, God, what did I do wrong here? Could have I stopped that if my management was better? Of course, somebody going into gravel and falling, I can't go and help that guy. But I'm beginning to think. Yes, it's true what that man said. You're efficient. But right now, I saw the management was bad. You see, the farmer was efficient. But he had bad management. Why would he have bad management? Because all his seeds were not going on fertile soil. They were going in 4 different directions. Only one was going in the right direction. Where is our management today? When you're sowing your time, you're sowing your energy, you're sowing your love, you're sowing your resources, you're sowing everything. Whatever you're sowing, where are you sowing it? How are you managing what you're sowing? Sometimes we take all our money and dump it in the wrong place. And then we start scratching our head. Oh man, gosh. Sometimes we take our time and sow it in the wrong place. And we think, man, I should not have wasted my time here. Sometimes we take all our education and sow it in the wrong place. By the way, sometimes we take all our ministry and sow it in the wrong place. Right? We think it's okay to do ministry everywhere. Yes, it's okay to do ministry everywhere, but it's sometimes not necessary to do ministry everywhere. Certain places don't need your ministry. You know why I say that? Because sometimes we go to the wrong place again and again. Remember in the Bible, Jesus looked and said, if somebody does not accept your gospel, shake the dust off your feet and leave that place. Right? You know why Jesus said that? He says, don't waste your time in people who don't want you. Period. Sometimes when I listen to people being persecuted in some places, and the question I asked that still all my pastor friends have not answered, I said, Pastor, why are these people who, knowing these people are hurtful people, these people are very hostile people, these people are anti-gospel, these people are haters of Jesus and Christianity, why are our people going and camping there, getting beaten, and also want to die? Why? That's my question. Can anybody answer me? Remember, there's a portion in the Bible when Jesus went somewhere, he was speaking, and they came to kill him. Right? They came to kill him. You know what he did? He never said, Jesus, bring angels, kill all these people. He never even asked God for protection. Do you know that? You know what he did? He ran away. We're talking about Jesus here. He's fully God and fully man. He could have just said, Father, deal with these guys. And they would have all been dead there. Right? This is God. What did God do? He ran away. Like as if he doesn't know anything and he's so scared. Did you know why he did that? Because he knew that those people were not worth his time and love. It was not worth that. You see, when people don't like you in a place, don't spend your time, energy, and money there. Not even your ministry. Who saves people? We save people or God saves people? God saves people. We are not going to save anybody. So by trying to do sacrifices and being a martyr and being a katir and satyr, we're not going to change the world. We're just going to die and our family is going to miss us. That's all. Now, I'm not against persecution. I'm not against all the ill treatment. I'm not against, but for the right reasons. But if you know some place is horrible and going to kill you, don't go there and die and say, I'm dying for Jesus. No, you're actually murdering yourself. You're not dying for Jesus. Jesus is not asking you to go there. In fact, Jesus is saying, don't go there. Shake the dust off your feet. Move to another place because those people are not ready for you. And the farmer was efficient, but he was in bad management. He was not managing his seeds well. Today, where are you sowing? And how are you sowing? Are you sowing to get a produce, or are you sowing to just keep watering? 10 days back, the side of my house here, I put a lot of soil and I went and bought 3 or 4 vegetable seeds and I planted them and I watered them for 2 weeks. Nothing has come. You know how angry I am? Is there something wrong with the plant? No. Is something wrong with the soil? No. Is something wrong with the water? No. Something's wrong with me. I think I'm a great guy who can plant things. I'm watering every day, meticulously, faithfully, and all wild plants are coming. I'm searching, where's my tomato? Where's my radish? Nothing is coming. You see, I think I'm efficient, but it's something wrong somewhere. What am I sowing? I wasted 10 days of my time, energy, and my water. Do you know I spend 1 hour watering my plants every day? That's not a joke. I can make money in the 1 hour. So if I'm spending 1 hour on my plants, I want to see something. I want to see some flowers. I want to see some fruit. Not just go and put water because I don't have time. No. Where are you sowing? What are you getting? It's not about, oh, I can do this. And no, it's about when you see something, you're encouraged. When you see a plant, when you see a flower, when you see a fruit, you're encouraged. And it says this farmer, he sowed. Only one went in the soil. And in the last part, it says in verse 9, anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Now, what do I want to talk about that? Listen and understand. Sometimes we are listening and sometimes we are not understanding. There's a difference between listening and there's a difference between understanding what you listen. It says in verse 10, his disciples came and asked him, why do you use parables when you talk to the people? He replied, you are permitted to understand the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but others are not. To those who listen to my teaching, more understanding will be given, and they will have an abundance of knowledge. But for those who are not listening, even what little understanding they have will be taken away from them. That is why I use these parables. Jesus is telling him, hey, to you're permitted to understand the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. But others are not. To those who listen to my teaching, more understanding will be given, and they will have an abundance of knowledge. To those who listen to my teaching. Are we listening to the teaching of God? Or are we just reading and just, it says, those who listen to my teaching, more understanding will be given, and they will have an abundance of knowledge. But for those who are not listening, even what little understanding they have will be taken away from them. And it says, for they look, but they don't realize, they don't really see. They hear, but they don't really listen or understand. Isn't that interesting? It says, they look, but they don't really see. How is it that you look and you don't see? Have you experienced trying to search for something in your house and not finding it, and you're actually looking at it and you're not seeing it? That happens to me every time. I'm looking at something, I'm wanting that, what I'm searching for, I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing it. So the question is, it's not important to look at something, it's important to see something. You can look everywhere. You see, please understand what I'm saying. If you stand in the balcony here and you look, you can look at a lot of things. But if I ask you, what did you see when you looked? That's another question altogether. When I say, what did you see? You're not going to give me every single detail of what you looked at, because that's impossible for you to do. When you look, there's only a few things that you will see. Only a few things will grasp your eyes and your attention and your mind. And so Jesus is saying, hey, they look, but they don't really see. They hear, but they don't really listen or understand. So Jesus is saying, it doesn't matter what you look, it matters what you're seeing. That's important. And it says, they hear. It doesn't, so Jesus is saying, it doesn't matter what you hear, it matters what you listen of what you hear and understand of what you listen to. So looking is not important, even though it's part of our life. Seeing something is important. And it says, they hear. We hear a lot of voices every day, right? We hear a lot of voices every day. But what are you listening to and what are you understanding in those voices? Jesus is saying, everybody's hearing. Everybody's hearing. But how many people are listening to what they're hearing and understanding to what they listen? So hearing is the first step, because we have ears to hear. After you hear, you're supposed to go to the next level of listening to what you hear. When it comes to listening, basically when it comes to listening, it's grabbing your attention. When you start listening to something, you're focusing on what you heard. Hearing is something wholesome. You're hearing somebody's voice. But when you start listening to that voice that you're hearing, you're focusing on that hearing and going into something more important. And when you're listening of what you hear, you will begin to understand what you listen to. I know it's confusing, but please understand. You first start hearing, and then you start focusing to listen. And when you start focusing to listen, you will understand what you're listening to of what you heard. But if you're not listening to understand, then you're hearing too many things and you're not understanding anything. Have you heard this phrase when people talk to you, they say, hey, listen to me. Have you heard that phrase? We all use it, right? Does anybody say, hey, hear me? You don't hear people say that. Nobody says, hey, hear me. Everybody's hearing everybody. But when they say, hey, listen to me, they're saying, I'm speaking, I know you're hearing me, I want you to listen what you're hearing. Because not everybody can listen, everybody's hearing. The person who listens will be able to understand and speak. A person who doesn't listen and only hears will not be able to understand. And that's what Jesus is trying to say here. And in verse 14, he goes on to say, this fulfills the prophecy of Isaiah that says, when you hear what I say, you will not understand. Jesus is saying, this is what Isaiah prophesied. He says, when you hear what I say, you will not understand what you hear. When you see what I do, you will not comprehend. For the hearts of these people are hardened, and their ears cannot hear, and they have closed their eyes so their eyes cannot see, and their ears cannot hear, and their hearts cannot understand, and they cannot turn to me and let me heal them. I want to end it there. But when you listen, that's the second step, and when you understand, that's the healing. It says the reason why they are not healed is because they're not giving into listening to understand it. You see, when you don't listen and understand, how can you receive blessing? You can't receive healing and blessing if you don't understand. Correct? Only if you understand something can you believe in that something. And so if you're not understanding it, it's basically saying you never listen to it. And when you're not listening to it, you're just only hearing it. Hearing is not good enough. It's not good enough. Hearing is just general. It's not specific. It is not centered towards you learning something from yourself and God and other people. And Jesus goes and says, that's the reason why they cannot turn to me and let me to heal them. You see, healing comes when you focus on listening and understanding. If you're not going to listen to God, you're not going to understand what He has for you. And if you don't understand what He has for you, where is the healing going to come from? But here's the interesting point. We find it difficult to listen to God, but we are so tuned to listening to the devil. Did you realize that? When I say that, what I mean is we are so tuned to listening to negativity than to positivity. We find it difficult to listen to God's word and His promises. But without any effort, it's easy for us to listen to the devil's words. And God's saying here, if you don't listen and understand, I can't help you. I can't help you. So the first part is, first of all, where are you sowing? Where are you sowing? You're efficient. You're qualified. You're talented. You're educated. Fine. But remember the story I told you yesterday. Bad management. However you want to translate that, you find another phrase or statement for that. The farmer was a professional guy. All he knew was seed, water, rain, soil, fertilizers, ground, land. He knew all that. But why did his seed go in 4 directions if he knew all that? How can it go in 4 directions if he knew all that? You know this building nearby here, our next neighbor? The guy was building the foundation, and after he finished building the foundation, my friend who built this house, my engineer who built this house, was building the next building next to this building, right? And so they started digging, right? They started digging to build that building. They found that this building's foundation has gone into that land. This building's foundation has gone into the land of that building. And so the engineer, he came to that contract and he said, hey, what have you done? Your foundation has come into my land. Now where am I going to put my pillar? And you know what that guy told my engineer? Solpa adjust ಮಾಡಿ. Say, please adjust a little bit. What the heck to adjust? Your pillar and foundation has come into my land. Where am I going to build my building? He says, legally, I can break it right now. You know what will happen if I break it? Your building is going to come down. So on compassionate grounds, he left it. But what's the point I'm trying to tell you here? The guy thought he knows how to build a building, but it was bad management. He's supposed to be a builder. He's not an engineer, by the way. He's a builder. He thought he was doing something right, but his foundation went to another site. You see, sometimes we might brag and boast, I built 50 houses, I built 100 houses. But if you build 50 houses, 100 houses, why is that foundation going to somebody else's land? You see, we might be good at what we are doing, but if we are not tuned to God, our management is going to be bad. The farmer was good at what he was doing, but why did his seed go everywhere else? Today the question is, where is your seeds going? In what you do, where is your seeds going? Don't think you have it all. You might have, everybody has it all, but it's not happening for them. It's not happening. And if this can happen to the farmer, if this can happen to a guy who's built many houses, it can happen to you and me. That's the point I'm trying to make. Don't be overconfident with what you think you know. Rather be confident in Jesus. Trust God. Ask God for wisdom and knowledge. God's saying, if you listen to me and understand, I will bless you. I will bless you. I will heal you. And you will never go wrong. The point of the matter is, most of the time we don't listen to God. That's why we go wrong. Because we think, this is my experience, I will do it this way. Well, it might be your experience, but sometimes you might not have to do it that way. It's okay to have experiences, but sometimes it'll be you have to change it. Because that's how life works. You trust in God, you trust in His love for you and His promises for you. Listen to Him, understand what you're listening to, and you and me will receive healing and blessing. Let's all stand.